I'd like to welcome everybody to Claymont City School Board of Education meeting. Roll call.
Ms. Campbell,
Present.
Mrs. Grandison,
Here.
Mrs. Host,
Here.
Mr. Peters,
Here.
Mrs. Wolf.
Here. Claymont City Schools says the vision statement of Claymont City School District will provide each student an opportunity for a lifetime of success, and a mission statement. Claymont City School District creates an environment that nurtures, develops, and empowers each student. The next regular meeting is December 9th here at 6 p.m. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, if you don't mind, I feel like we should do a moment of silence for Kenny Trimmer, who was a school board member who passed away, as well as a recognition for our veterans that have served our country. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. We have no identity reference. Can I get a motion in a second to approve the meeting agenda?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mrs. Host,
Yes.
and Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
You too.
Under commendations, I'd just like to commend Callie Wallace and Grace McPherson for their state cross-country participation. Callie is once again an all-Ohioan, and Grace, to be there participating, looking for good things for them for next year. Then from they can build on this participation.
Okay. And before I begin, may I approach the board? I do have a handout that I'd like to give you that goes along with my speaking points tonight. Thank you. Oops. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here to address the board tonight on policy 7.32. For the sake of time constraints, I previously sent to you my resume and qualifications for speaking on this topic. I would be happy to entertain any questions that you may have to that end at the end of my time. I'm here tonight both as a concerned parent and professional. However, I would like to make it clear that at this time, I am in no way representing my employer with any statements that I am making tonight. I am respectfully asking the board to consider taking policy 7.32 back to policy committee to be rewritten with best practice standards in mind and with input from experts in the field of addiction and treatment, and to delay the implementation until the time that an updated policy is brought forth. I would now like to follow up with why I'm making this request. The first issue that I have to address as a parent with the policy is the feeling of not being involved in each step of the process. The most common concern that parents have voiced to me is that the school wants a blanket consent signed and is not allowing them to be present during the drug testing. My children do not attend any healthcare appointments nor medical procedures without a parent present. I realize that this may not be a deal breaker for some families. However, for myself and many families, it is. I have been verbally told by Superintendent Wrench that parents who would prefer to sign and be present during the time of testing may do so if they can arrive within an allotted time frame. I would request that the board consider wording in their policy that protects parents' rights simply to be involved in the process should they choose to do so. My concerns from a professional standpoint began on page 3 of the policy under section E, collection. Firstly, in my mind, there is no rationale why all students cannot be afforded the same level of dignity to use an enclosed bathroom stall to produce a urine specimen. Secondly, who is going to be monitoring the male children during the time in the bathroom, as stated in the policy? In a call with the agency that is currently contracted to do the testing for Claymont schools, they stated they will not be going into the restroom with the students. It is a fair question to ask who the school intends to have in the restroom monitoring the children. If we are going to defer to the testing agency's protocols and not the protocols spelled out in board policy, then this section of the policy clearly needs to be rewritten. The next section that I would like to bring to your attention is section F, testing, specifically why we are testing for the drugs methaqualone, which has not been available in the United States since 1980, propoxyphene, which has not been available in the United States since 2010, and LSD, which only accounts for 0.72% of drug use nationwide in the United States. However, we are not testing for methamphetamines, which accounts for the largest amount of drug use in Tuscarawas County due to its high availability and low cost. I am asking you to consider testing using the standard 12-panel drug screen, along with nicotine, alcohol, and anabolic steroids if the board feels the need to do so. The next issue that struck me in this policy are omissions of an amnesty clause and a positive reinforcement incentives. Without an amnesty clause, the board is giving no recourse to a student that has a substance use problem to come forward of their own accord and admit that they need help prior to being found out on a drug screen. I am not saying that they should have no consequences. However, to have the courage to come forward, self-report, and ask for help is something that should be noted. Also, study after study shows that positive reinforcement changes behavior faster and with better outcomes than penalties alone. I would urge you not to simply have a punitive policy in place. Finally, while researching this presentation, I found out that our students are now currently accountable to 3 separate policies regarding substance use. Board Policy 7.32, the Student Athletic Handbook Policy, and Claymont Student Handbook Controlled Substance and Substance Abuse Policy. I found it confusing that none of these policies align regarding what happens when there's a violation. My question to the board is who decides which policy will be implemented for a child when they're found in violation? The policies widely vary on how harsh the punishment is. Also, if we utilize one policy and punishment, is the student then exempt from being hit with more punishment from the other 2 policies? I strongly feel that all 3 policies should align and be consistent. I have a packet that I've put together, including all of my research, if you would like to have it, as well as copies of my comments from tonight. It has research, including drug use in the county, all kinds of data. You're welcome to it. Thank you.
Nice job, Nicole.
No, Nicole, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Under the 12-panel screen,
Yes.
you added a few extra if we wanted to. What were those again, please?
Those are ones that you actually already have in your policy that you said you were going to
Okay.
test for. Anabolic steroids,
Okay,
nicotine, and alcohol.
I
Those are not standard on our 12-panel drugs.
wasn't quick enough to write down what you
Sorry.
said, so that's
Me
what
neither. I'm glad you asked.
I did include a paper in there that does list what is on a standard 12-panel drug screen.
All right, thank you.
Nicole, I have a question. Can you kind of expound on this green paragraph here? It says, once a child is treated for substance use disorder, billing purposes, they will have an ICD-10 code attached to their medical records for billing purposes.
Absolutely. So in the medical field, anytime you're seen by a physician for any diagnosis, a medical billing code is attached to that. If we send a student on a first time, you're caught up first time, we know that kids' brains aren't developed till they're 25 or 26. If they make a bad choice and we say, man, the first time you're caught positive, you're going to treatment. They get an ICD-10 code of substance use disorder attached to their name. That will follow them for the rest of their life in their medical record. There are certain jobs that you need to military, government clearance, you have to turn over your medical records. If that's in there, we are limiting our kids on being able to take that job. I'm asking us to consider maybe our kids, the first time they're making a mistake, they don't need treatment. They need the school counselor. They need their parents involved. We need to come around them as a community and say, what's going on? I also included the cost of treatment there. I don't know that we necessarily always think about the cost of treatment. Not everybody has insurance. Not everybody has good insurance. If you have a high deductible plan, you're paying those costs, and those aren't a one-time fee.
Appreciate all your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for
much.
bringing these things to our attention.
There are many places in the community that I'd be happy to recommend that are experts in the field that would be more than happy to help look at the policy. But
Thank you,
for your
Nicole.
time.
Thank you very much.
I can go with some of my stuff, but we want to kill time if he's not
Okay.
showing. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and part of presentations, we'll go over just so that the board and the community actually can see what the clinic. I know that's, you had the right thing. It was clear to left. That's it, but they're all PDF, so it was a tab clear to the left. So in the, I just want to show, and I can kind of come up and show the diagram. The mouse, I don't know if that. So the bids have gone out for the clinic. We have a meeting tomorrow to kind of discuss how the bids are come back. The bids are close to, they're very close to the allotted amount of money that we have. But this section here is the existing building that we have now. Okay, what they're going to do is on this end would be, this will extend the hallway and it'll go to the outside to that parking lot. There will be access here to the clinic area for students. And then there'll be access here for the community to use when they set their appointment. This is not a static area. This is it's set up to be a clinic where if you have Altman or All Care as your provider, that you can go and schedule an appointment for and see the nurse practitioner that they have staffed there. Okay, so they will come in and there's 2 separate waiting rooms. And they come in now, and then they have from here, they have a break room, and I can't pull it up and see it exactly, but it's a couple break rooms and some exam rooms that are in there, and that's what they're adding on. This is about 2,500 square feet. Originally, they were looking at 2,000 square feet. So we're still vetting the numbers to be able to come in with that. So there should be, I think you roll that up a little bit, maybe. There should be another drawing. Yeah, so we're trying to keep the look as far as consistent with the building, so we'll mesh and flow. So you have the front door, there will be a landscaping here because they have drop offs for testing that they can pick up and drop off from here, and they'll be behind this little wall in that area. They're looking to build it, and then this will be the back view of the building. It does not go clear over to Mr. Peters's classroom. There'll still be some grass area in that section. But when they look to build this, they will build it with the fact is that for futuristic ideas that maybe one day the board will say, let's see about expanding our high school, because this will support a second floor. And then you'll be able to build further out into that grassy area and into that parking lot as well. So, right, and that's what we're looking at now. So that right now, if the clinic doesn't come, if they open up and they say we can't survive, this becomes our property, which could be divided into another two separate classrooms as well, being at 2,500 square feet. Bids have come back about $800 per square foot. That's where it is at the moment. So I don't think I have any drawings on that, but we're trying to keep the look as cosmetic as the look, this part of the building as it is currently. Any questions on the drawings? And then Beth can help answer any questions too regarding that as well. But tomorrow we're meeting at 1 o'clock, go over the bids and see where we are as far as continuing moving forward. So if they come back, we will look to start approving bidders and contractors probably as early as December. So we can do that.
I think we've been holding pretty steady on making it look as much a part of our building as possible. So that comes at a cost. I'm sure they're a little frustrated with that, with the contractors, but I just don't want it to look like we have a steel building. Our brick, beautiful brick building.
And I do want to add, we will go into a lease agreement with Altman because we're not picking up all the extra costs for that addition, for custodial costs, for electrical costs, for gas costs. There will be a lease agreement as well. And as of Tuscarawas Valley and Malvern have, their clinics are going along. So those superintendents said as well, they're going to do the same. So we're not going to pick up the cost of that addition. Okay. The next item I just want to have a conversation about and share is that the athletic council committee has met, and they can jump in and we've been working on this as far as athletic director Justin Jones and myself and athletic council for a couple of years, but we're looking to have an athletic hall of fame. So our hall of fame will be a couple different criterias. We'll have one for athletes, teams, coaches, and also contributors from the community as well. So there are criteria for each one of those. What our vision is to be able to get a video board, and that an interactive video board that you can come up and touch and search somebody by name or by year, and for whether you think that they were an all Ohioan or however that pops into there. So that would be a part of this board. Our goal, and correct me if I'm wrong, as far as committee members, we were looking to get this started in the springtime, and then next year, being it will be the 60th year of the graduating class from Claymont High School, would be to have an induction in 2026. So we would have it at a ceremony, and then have the introductions at a basketball game is what we're envisioning. And then we'll look at getting that started. So just some of the criteria for some of you may be interested. The athlete is eligible after 5 years of graduation. And they had to have at least lettered twice in at least one sport. And the criteria that they also have to have at least, all conference player of the year, like conference or district, all county, all district, region, all Ohio and state qualifier, state champ. So if you meet some of that criteria, then you would be one of those persons who could be nominated for the athlete. For teams, you could be a state qualifier, state champs. I mean, those are state champs would be no question in that. And we have coaches and also contributing community members. And one of the things as far as committee was that, you volunteered your time to be a person to help athletics. So did I miss anything?
No, I think one of the things was the fact that we also talked about, if we would get this board, one of the issues we're running into now at the high school is we have no more space to display the pictures for all Ohioans. And so then that could also be included in here. So you could go to the screen, look for Hall of Famers and look for the all Ohioans. And I think that's a good idea too, because we don't have the space anymore. And obviously those people deserve to be recognized as well as all the students who academically get recognized, so.
I also think it's important to note that he was trying to get donations or grants to purchase the.
Interactive board, yeah.
Cover the
Yeah.
screens, yes. So
So
it's not something they. we're gonna
This-
pick
that
up.
the district's done.
The screen, we're looking to have it like mounted on a wall or, just.
Freestanding or mounted on the wall, depending upon
Okay.
the type of screen. It would be nice if it would go onto a wall and on the other side of in a rotunda area in the athletic wing, we could do some kind of a mural of some sorts. And so, but people could come in and search by, oh, I want to know who in 1984, if there anybody in here, who was the All Ohioans then? And then the induction class of 2026. So who was in that, to be able to pop that button and then read about those folks who were nominated or teams that made the Hall of Fame.
So, the first, so I assume once we do this, we'd have to have like an inaugural class. So would that be like everyone that's on that board or on that wall for all Ohioans? It's more than 5 years out of school? Just.
No, it
No.
would be two
Two
completely
separate.
different things. So you can go look for the All Ohioans and then you look for the Hall of
Oh,
Famers.
okay.
All the Hall of Famers would be nominated through a process. We have a form that you would fill out and then also include attachments about, what they've done. Like, this is in no way saying this person is ever, these people are ever being shined, but for me, like for the contributors, when I first heard about this and thought that we were gonna start this, like the people's name that came to my mind, some of you are way too young, probably don't even know them, were Ed and Shirley Griffin as contributors. Because of all the time and all the hours and all of the energy they put forth. And I mean, we could come up with lists of things that they started and they did, but people like that, that's why we thought it was important to also include.
There'll be your form of
contributors.
we'll form a committee that will review it, just like the other schools. There'll be a committee that will review.
Right,
The
probably be the
nominees and all
athletic
that
council
stuff.
that would be doing.
Justin, we seen that board. He, at a booster club meeting. It was really neat. That was a couple, I don't know, it was last year, or year before that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's all coming together, but it's a really neat board.
Yeah, but our hope is to be able to secure those funds through donations or grants. And then actually, he and I next week have a presentation on the board again. So we're going to take a look at cost and what comes back. But I just think I think it's time that we have an athletic Hall of Fame to acknowledge our athletes that would meet that criteria. Then, teams and community members, and it would be a good thing for us.
Yeah, we talked about the inaugural year, we would have 10 members. And then after that, probably 5 every year, but the 10 member just initially, but. This shows how old I am. At the athletic council meeting, they were talking about people, and of course I knew who they were, and I'm like, well, what about this person? What about this person? And they all looked at me like. Yeah, I'm old. It's all good, it's all good, but I mean, I think there's a lot of people who graduated from Claymont that have been outstanding in sports and have done a lot for those sports here in this district, so I think this is a really good idea moving forward.
I don't have anything else to share
Good.
in my section.
CEA. Anybody?
Not unless I don't have that topic. I know at Tusky Valley, they have a board and it's not just athletics, it's their drawing department, it's their student debate, it's theater, which is drama, but I know theirs is set up more of like an archive, like yearbook. So I know that might be something different. But I would like to I would like it to not only just be athletic students, but your scholarly students, that are in other things other than just sports, because we have a lot of students and a lot of community members who are involved in more than just athletics. I mean, I like the idea of that. Talking with the friends at Tusky Valley, it's not quite the athletic Hall of Fame like you're looking at doing. It would be, I think yours is more of a, like I said, like a yearbook, like a oh, I lost the word, but you can go in and you can look at the yearbooks, you can pick on a sport, you can pick drum, you can pick different areas. And all of that is archived on their board. So, just an idea.
Thank you.
What school did you say that was?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anybody have anything in their administrative reports? How about Buckeye? No, we're just moving along.
Just Kim, me. Start with the monthly one and then we'll move to the 5-year forecast.
Amber Alert.
Yeah.
Would you say monthly versus?
Yes.
Okay.
Month of October already. Yeah.
Empire.
Go ahead. We're 4 months into the fiscal year for 2025. Total revenues are a little bit higher than budgeted. It would be around 33% of the budget right now. We're at 35.79%. Fiscal year 25 is up 1.2% over last year. Interest right now, we're at low over $155,000 for these 4 months. Excuse me, updates were made on our October 2nd payment. The foundation payment, which is our state money, comes in twice a month. And the October number 2, the updates that were made was it brought in the new enrollments for this year. Everything else up till now was still looking at last year's enrollment numbers. So that was updated for then. On the expenditure side, we're at 28.34%, which is lower, but we are up 3.14% over last year, with 85.2% with the salaries and benefits. And November has 3 pays this year, so that percentage will see it increase to align more with the budget. Total revenues in the general fund so far is $8.1 million, with total expenses of 6.6. October did see a deficit spend of a little over $220,000. But as a fiscal year so far, we do have a surplus of 1.5 million, with a true days cash of a little over 140 days. For the month of October, for federal and state programs, we missed 138,533.18 was outstanding, and for lunch programs for October, 124,612.66. Did talk to Andrea about that because that is a little bit of an increase, but it has to do with the rates that are coming in now with the CEP. So that I like that number. So fund balances for everything were just over $10 million at the end of October. I did add an extra slide this month. I just wanted to show, so when you look at that capital projects, or not the capital projects, the permanent improvement fund, the 003 fund on the previous page, there was $758,000 that's listed there. I did want to show you that that's the bottom part. I'm skipping ahead, but that is where that 2 mills that we voted in a couple years ago that helped build the stadium and the field house and stuff. So that is that pays for our certificate of participation, and that payment that's due for fiscal year 25 is $318,840. So I'm trying to build that, so when we run into any emergencies, or or if we get to that point where turf is needed and we can build that up, that's where that money will come from. The first one up there, we do have a lease purchase agreement that was back in from 2016. It was $1 million that was entered into that did the north side building tear down and took off the torrents on top of the towers across the street. We only have 2 more payments of that left. It's for December of this year and December of next year, and 1 more interest payment. So total due of that's just shy of $251,000. And that comes out of the general fund. So that's the October. And then if you move over to the 5-year forecast, 5-year forecasts are done twice a year. they're due, I have to upload them to the Ohio Department of Education in November, and in May has an update. So this is the initial one for this year. So our main revenue drivers are real estate taxes, their ODE funding, and the public utilities. And revenues, estimated a small increase in property taxes from the general fund for this year. The Ohio funding formula is now, it's funded at 67.7%. The biannual budget was set in June of 2023 that we're still working on. That was for fiscal years 24 and 25. The new budget will be introduced in the coming months and hopefully voted on in June, and it will take effect in July for the fiscal years of 26 and 27. We are 69.2% state funded for this year. And we are on the guarantee. I think I kind of went over this last month a little bit. When we talk about that guarantee, it looks back to the fiscal year 2021. And as of right now, we won't receive any less money than what we did back then. So depending on what the new biennial budget and the governor says moving forward will depend on if there's a continued guarantee, and if there is, what year that will look at. CEP move back the funds that it puts more money in the restricted funds under the DPIA, where last year it was in unrestricted, but we're still on the guarantee, so we get the same amount of money. So total revenue, looking past last year, we had 22,690,000. This year, I'm estimating a little increase of 22,840,000. And so then looking on the expense side of things, the increase for salaries are according to the negotiated agreements. We did have medical prescription premiums had a 6.48% increase this year, 3.95% for dental, and a 0% increase for vision. And we just predict the insurance costs are going to continue to rise over the years. Purchase services, utility costs, and substitute teacher costs drive that purchase services number. Supplies were increased this year and forward to reflect the purchase of Chromebooks and teacher computers and curriculum and stuff that we used a lot of the ARP ESSER funds for over the past couple of years to purchase those. So now we're going to be seeing those back coming from the general fund. And I budget equipment 400,000 every year, even though Beth tells me I need to increase that every time, but I hold her to it. So we just still see increased costs of spending every year. So looking overall, I estimated 22,821,000 for expenses this year. So looking at days of cash for fiscal year 21, we're still sitting at like 121 days at the end of the year. But then as you see, as the years go on, it goes down. That's partially because it's very hard to predict what the budget's going to look like for those years coming, especially 5 years down the road. Salaries and benefits, as you can see, we're always consistent about that 83 to 85% usually. And then it just looks a little bit higher in the outer years just because of the revenue flow. I kind of kept stagnant, not knowing the budget. And then the last slide, or no, not quite the last, but cash analysis. Yeah. So break even point would be as if your revenues and your expenses equaled each other. This year, I estimated it maybe a $20,000 to the good, and then we look at deficit spending for the years moving out. And then overall, we're starting the fiscal year at 25. We had $7.5 million in the general fund. Remember, this is only general fund that we're talking about that we have to forecast. And at the end of fiscal year 29, we would have about $2.4 million. And then the last slide just kind of gives you an idea of where our money's higher volume sits as at the end of October.
Just as a reminder to me, you have to do a 5-year forecast twice a year, but the budget only gets passed every other year, correct? So you're just supposed to, who's supposed to apply? Okay. Well, good job. I mean, yeah. Well above my pay grade.
Any questions on any of that stuff?
Well, I'll just add in, we'll save a little bit of money because Beth and I decided today that the elementary drainage issue, as I told you in a text message, was isolated to that bathroom. We're just gonna cap it and turn it into a storage closet right now because it doesn't affect the operations of the kitchen. That if ever someday we want to go back and redo it all or have to redo it all, we will at that point in time. So right now, we're not gonna mess with that drain because it doesn't affect the operations of the kitchen.
And there's plenty of bathrooms in the
Yes.
building that people can go to.
So instead of that, we'll have to be looking at the high school door again for the cooler and freezer
Yeah.
is what they were talking, so always something.
I'll just add on Jeff Wharton from TMI. I don't have a presentation, so I can't steal his thunder. I did just check my email thinking maybe he did email me and say he couldn't make it or not, but he was coming tonight. And our last correspondence was that you talked about finishing touches, putting up the fencing, all of the stuff's out of the parking lot. And then it was more right of wait. They're waiting, but they get a rebate for the switch after. So the spot savings very actual positive. With our rate. Right. So that's the last side of the fourth points regarding the solar. But they are almost finished. I don't know if this is for discussion or this. I would like to go back and talk about this policy and talk about this provided. So I don't know, is that for discussion thing or is that a big difference? I don't know. Okay, so, I mean, I think that if we didn't take this back and look at it, given the information that we've been providing here today, I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice. I think that, I mean, I voted no on it originally. But I didn't even know some of these things, like the ICD-10 code, like that for me, that's a big deal, you know? I mean, last month when we were talking about it, I know Cindy mentioned that she drank alcohol in high school. I know I drank alcohol in high school. I'll tell her. But here, I mean, the thing is, I don't think that, I mean, if I were to pop for that the first time and then that's followed me around for the rest of my life with this ICD-10 code, I don't think that's really fair to our students. And then I think that contradicts our mission statement of creating an environment that nurtures, develops, and empowers each student and providing each student an opportunity for a lifetime of success. I think we're backtracking on that if we leave this policy as it is. So, I mean, if this is the right place and time, I'd like to make a motion to rescind our approval of that policy until we revisit it and get it rewritten properly and clear up some of these things that need to be addressed, like the not testing for methamphetamine, oxycontin. So the no amnesty clause, I think that's a good point that should be added. Student brave enough to come forward and admit that they have a problem before they get popped on a drug tax. I think we'd be doing our students a disservice if we didn't revise this policy. At least take it back to policy for discussion.
Which we had correspondence a
Right.
few weeks ago. I commit the policy committee that we need to pull it and we need to put it back in committee because of some of the information that she said that I had heard outside anyway. You know, we have different policies, different things, and shame on me, and Solomon too, because we're both on the policy committee, of not realizing that we have something here in the student handbook, and then we have athletic, and now we have a policy, and bringing all three of those together to see what those look like. So that's a mistake on our part. So we own that. And we had talked about it and decided we were gonna be pulling it back into committee anyway, to get further clarification and understanding before we put something out there. Even when I pulled it, some of the things that we had in it, which Nicole had highlighted on here, like about parking, like we specifically said that's not
Yeah, they're
supposed to be in
Still
there.
in there a couple times.
Yeah, so we have to just kind of get some things figured out and ironed out. So
Yeah, I didn't know
I
if it
agree.
was just, good practice to put it out there that we rescind it.
Yeah.
So I'd make a motion to rescind this policy until we
Put it back into
revisit and
committee,
revise it. So to put it back in,
put it back into committee.
put it back in.
I think I like whole suggestion as well to maybe, for us to maybe double check with professionals to find out what we're looking at and what people are planning to test for is what should I do.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yeah.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Host.
Yes. Can I get a motion a second to, is everybody done? Board discussion, good. Can I get a motion in a second to approve the treasurer report and recommendations? So moved.
Second.
So I have approved the financial report for the month of October as presented, approved the payment of bills that were presented. The regular board meeting minutes of October 14th. There was one then and now statement or certificate that was in your packets. And also the approved the 5-year forecast and the notes up on all of the limits. Mrs. Host,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
and Mrs. Wolf. Yes.
Can I get a motion in a second to approve the superintendent items?
So moved.
All right, so we have some items here that accept the resignation of Joe Bell as high school custodian at the end of business day on last Friday on the 8th of November. Accept the resignation of Carol Bates to our high school cook at the end of business on December 20th, 2024. Approve Jacob Baldwin as the, gonna see a typo, as the AV IT operator to be paid at $11 per hour to operate audiovisual equipment within the high school, excluding drama productions for the 24-25 school year. As we discussed, that many activities that we have that we can't rely on the drama to production. Drama to be able to donate their time. So we are at the point we pay the scoreboard operator things, so we need to look at some of that. The ball that.
So that's after school.
That'd be after school things, like I did senior award nights. Approve the CEA committees to be paid at $20 per hour. So we have a calendar. The professional development committee. The professional development committee has already met. The calendar committee will meet later this week. April Nisley is agreed to do Saturday school, and that will be $27 per hour for this school year. Unpaid leave for Clara Warner effective December 6th for the remainder of the school year. Alice Delaney is advisor for the non-athletic supplementals of Mustang Helping Hands for the school year. We have some tuition reimbursement for 2 members. Alexis Yacobucci as an OTA, a substitute rate at $26 per hour starting today. We have some student teacher assignments. Those will be at the preschool. We have some volunteers for the drama production. We also have some job descriptions for technology director and buildings and grounds supervisor. We have a Learn Well agreement for tutoring services. And we have emergency action plan for the use of automated external defibrillator, AEDs. As you might remember, legislation was passed that mandated every school, community school, if you were in a village and had more than 5,000 people that you had to have a AED. So part of that now has come out that we have to have a policy, or not policy, but a action plan on how to use it. So I know Courtney Cameron's here now, and she's trained staff as far as how to use it, and an AED walks you through the process if you have it. But every quarter, it would have to be, staff would be trained or revisit the plan on, hey, are you okay? You're not responding, call 911, go get the AED, and then how to hook it up, etc. So that is something will be posted with each AED. We have a substitute on Brook Grove. So those are the items I have there for now. Any discussion on any items?
Roll call?
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mrs. Host,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
Oh, a motion and a second to follow the next item, item P.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And item P is for Craig Host to be paid $20 per hour for the following CEA committees, calendar and professional development. He also has a youth to youth on athletic supplemental, and he's also volunteering for the fall drama production for this school year. He's busy.
Roll call?
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mrs. Host,
Abstain.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
and Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
And then we have motion and a second to approve item Q.
So moved.
Second.
And item Q is Cindy Host as a fall drama production volunteer.
Roll call?
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mrs. Host,
Abstain.
and Mrs. Wolf, please.
Yes.
Sorry.
One more set, a motion and a second to approve the following recommendations that come from Athletic Director Justin Jones. So we have two.
I'll second that. Sorry, we're jumping ahead there.
Okay. We have two items. We have an overnight trip, some overnight trips for the wrestling program to Wheeling, West Virginia, and to Top Gun and Alliance. And then we also have some athletic workers for the winter.
Roll call?
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Host,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Abstain.
and Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
I don't have any new business to share unless the board does.
Can we get a motion and a second to go into executive session for employment?
So moved.
I'll second.
With no action to follow.
Yes, ma'am.
Roll call.
Yeah,
Yes.
roll call.
Okay, Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Host,
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
6:48.
48.
Okay, so we need a motion to come out of the executive session.
So moved. Second.
Okay, and that's at 7:12. Now we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Michelle, second by Cindy. Okay, and the time there is 7:13. Thank you.